Neil Atkinson heads up the sports betting at BetSaracen's, Arkansas's favorite sports betting app. And he joins us here on a Friday afternoon on halftime during the golden hour. Neil, I haven't talked to you in a while, man. How you been?
Man, I'm doing great. Just trying to wrap my head around how we're going to handicap all of these bowl games, knowing what players are going to be in and out. I think the playoff games are going to be a little bit easier because, for the most part, I think the players will all play in those. But this is it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the traditional bowl games fare in the betting action versus the playoffs. I think I've got a pretty good idea on how that's going to wind out, but we'll see.
Yeah, do you think, you will be releasing immediate lines when the matchups are released, because that's actually the day before the portal opens, and that's, the word data point gets thrown out a lot by the committee last week. The players on the team are going to be the biggest data point here. Not how they finish, not their statistics and everything. It's who's actually on the team.
Yeah, and our models now are more sophisticated than they used to be, and they really are starting to dial in the matchups, on both sides of the ball, down to the player levels, especially in the pros. So knowing who's in and who's out, and the ones that are going into the transfer portal, a lot of times those were contributing players on the team or up and coming that think they should have more play time. So it has an effect, and some of these bowl games, we know that the coaches are going to try to get experience in with the younger players. That's the huge benefit of a bowl game. So it makes it trickier for us on the handicapping, but, at the end of the day, we'll throw out the original line, and then people will vote whether or not we were right or wrong with their money real quick. And if you know something that's not out in the public knowledge as far as or you think someone is going to enter the transfer portal, and we put the line out on Sunday night, you may take a shot at it and see if your hunch is right or your information is right. But it's just different now. It's just different.
So I'm looking at the line for tomorrow's SEC championship, and Texas is favored -2.5. If this game was played in Athens, would it be different? Because there's a lot of folks who believe that even though it's not in Athens, it's in Atlanta, and that's practically a home game for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was factored in there to a bit. The SEC game, handicapping this game and the line on this game is a little tricky for us too, because I guess one team could have a big blowout and that could affect the selection committee. But with Georgia with that outing against Georgia Tech on that Friday night, I don't see it being a blowout. But right now, if that's a close game, both of those teams are going to be in the playoffs. So, what kind of factor does that have? But like I said, that's why we go with the data. It's the sports bettors that can read too much into it. And, of course, all of this is just my opinion, too, just looking at it. But it just makes us challenging. And we've got a lot to learn this year, because this is the first year we are doing this format. And, some conference championship games mean a lot more than the other ones. And how a team performs, and I know that the committee has telegraphed, what they're going to do. They're not going to penalize teams for not being in the championship game, but who knows what happens when they get in that room on Sunday and make the selections. I think the TV show, or they start doing stuff at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. So my eyes are going to be directly on the TV then, and looking at the bet ticker, waiting for the noon NFL games to go off. So it's going to be a busy Sunday morning for me.
Well, it seems SMU could be penalized for playing in their conference championship based upon Ward Manuel basically saying that if they lose, that they could be ranked lower. Yeah. So you guys have a pretty interesting side bet on your football futures page here about either SMU or Alabama making the playoff 12. And so much of this will hinge on the outcome of tomorrow's ACC championship game.
Yeah, and when I'm looking through and reviewing to see what the public is interested in, because usually what the public is interested in is what they bet on, and there is no doubt that all eyes are on the ACC between Clemson and SMU, because if Clemson does win, it could create some chaos, and it could really hurt SMU. But yeah, it's just crazy, and it's going to be fun figuring out what the lines are going to be. It's going to be fun doing that. Like I said, not so much in the playoffs, but for these bowl games.
Which outside of the SEC championship game, which championship game gets the most action so far at BetSaracen?
Really, a lot has not really come in on them yet. People are making their decisions day of the game, and I know we got a few tonight. My guess that the next one would probably be the Big Ten, Penn State versus Oregon, because that's a marquee matchup, and people like to bet the big games. So, I mean, that to me, I think the Big Ten after the SEC will be the most bet, and I can't put it past some people betting what they want to happen versus what the numbers say is going to happen. But yeah, it's new territory for us, and that's why we play the games. And I hope we get good quality products in these championship games that don't mean as much as far as the playoffs. But yeah, again, it's kind of a wild card, and we'll see what the committee does.
We really hadn't had somebody that you would point to as being a clear front runner for the Heisman Trophy up until maybe the last couple of weeks. And judging by what I see on the odds for Travis Hunter on BetSaracen, he, at least according to your sports bettors and your clients, is the odds-on favorite, and by far.
Yeah, and that's happened a lot in the last couple of years. The Heisman race has been settled in the public opinion or the bettor's opinion kind of early. The last couple of years, for the most part, and again, I prefer it when there's more drama. But a lot of people are betting that one because it seems to be a lock, and you have to lay so much money to win anything on that. I would prefer a Heisman race that was a little bit more competitive, just to spur some betting action on there. But yeah, I mean, really, no one's really talking about the Heisman this year because it seems like they're anointed both in the press and both in the betting public. So, like I said, maybe next year we can get a more competitive Heisman race. But the Heisman is just one of those tricky ones, and it's heavily influenced by the press.
As far as what we got going on tomorrow outside of the conference championships, you got Arkansas versus UTSA. For basketball at Bud Walton, saw last Arkansas as a 19-point favorite. What other sort of props are available? I know those have been very, very popular for BetSaracen for Razorback basketball. Yeah,
they have been. We've got our regular a big menu of the props out right now on the Double R props. And when you have a 19-point spread on a basketball game, I mean that's a lot for a football game. That's a huge amount for a basketball game. You don't get as much money on the money line, especially from the Arkansas bettors, because I mean you have to lay. I think right now you have to lay $3,000 to win 100 if you bet the money line. And we don't the over and under we will probably put out later on this afternoon when the consensus line comes out. But the prop bet, we've had much more on the prop bets than we have had on the outcome of the game. And if you look at the one the other night against Miami, I think Arkansas was a 3.5-point favorite, and it landed on 3. So everybody betted against the spread, and I think it went up to 4.5 and 5. But by the time the game went off, so they did not cover, but the money line bettors did cash in. But they really, really, really cashed in on the props on that particular game. And like I said, with this transfer portal and things like that, people seem to be following players a little bit more than they do teams as far as the betting perspective is concerned.
And also Thug Nasty's in action tomorrow in UFC 310. Is that still a popular option for bettors in state?
Yeah, the previous UFC when Bryce Mitchell and Thug Nasty was on was our most bet UFC event that we had on the site. So with him being on this card and on the main card, that one's got a lot of excitement to it. And two of the fights are, actually the headline fight on that card. There's another fight on there that's just as interesting. So I mean, we will have that at Saracen. So if you don't want to pay the big pay-per-view as these conference football games are winding down on Saturday night, I think about 9:00 is when the main cards start for the UFC. And I think the Thug Nasty is about 9:20 Central Time is when that one's scheduled. Of course, they can, the times that they start will waver on that. But the last time that, when we had the Jake Paul Tyson fight, we had standing room only in there, and with Bryce Mitchell being in there, we expect to see a big crowd in the sports bar. And if you're going to come watch it, you may want to come early if you want to get up close to that big screen in there and get a seat.
Neil, it's always good talking to you. Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
All righty, everybody, and let's hope we snag a good bowl game that people want to go to and a nice matchup. And as soon as they get these announcements out, we'll get these lines up for you. And like I say, bet with your head, not over it. And good luck on all your parlays this weekend.
That's Neil Atkinson from BetSaracen, Arkansas's favorite sports betting app. Download it from the App Store for iPhones, Google Play for Android. All the web browsers work, BetSaracen.com. The number on halftime as we get into the home stretch of the Golden Hour on Friday is 877-377-6963. Back right after the break.
Lighten up, Francis.
This is halftime.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.